That's a really hard one for me to land on just squarely saying Barry. I want to. He's gifted for sure. He's amongst the best that ever did it, but you can't take Walter Payton out of the question.
You can't, but I'm telling you, in my eyes, this is the way you have to start having these arguments because we've had enough time now elapsed to where there's so many generational greats where you have to look at our era, right? The time that we were alive watching it, our generation. You, I don't. Well, you may have been old enough to watch Walter Payton, but I didn't watch Walter Payton play. So, in my eyes, the conversation is Barry versus Emmett, right? Jordan versus Kobe. They played in the same time together. You can't do the Jordan versus LeBron argument. You can, but you can't have that ultimate discussion because they're kind of two different eras. So that's the way I like to look at these conversations. Rather than all time. Like when I think of all time, my time, the time I was alive. Because I'm not going to sit here and make an argument for Walter Payton when I never watched him play. I know he's great. I've watched all the highlights, but to me, Barry, it's an easy question. It's Barry.
Go down the list then. Like that's an interesting way to look at it. If you look at the players that you were able to really watch play,
yeah,
who would be your top 5
that I've ever watched play in Detroit sports or in general?
Football, not college, NFL. Top 5.
Top 5 in the NFL players that I've got the privilege of watching play that were just lights out. That is a good question. Okay, so Calvin Johnson, watching him play was probably one of the most interesting players I've ever got to watch because defenses had to change the way they played him. Right? And not to say that there hasn't been a ton of great big wide receivers out there. There has. But Megatron was on another level because defensive coordinators had no idea what to do. They had to scheme goal line defense on him. Matthew Stafford basically just said, if I looked at him and he got free, I just threw the ball up and I know he was getting it. So to me, it was Calvin as number 1. Number 2, that would obviously be Barry. We got to put Barry in there, obviously. So Barry and Calvin. I feel like those are easy, though, Hitch. They really are.
I'm taking some notes as you're talking here. And, yes, Calvin Johnson was tremendously talented, generational talented, probably the greatest wide receiver in NFL history, honestly, if he would have played longer, right?
Yeah.
What I was getting at here is specifically running backs.
Oh, specific running backs. Okay.
I got a little list going too, and you can Google. I'm not going to penalize you for Googling.
My top 5 Lions running backs. Well, it would be Barry. It would be Gibbs is insanely special to watch. I think we have just cracked the surface on watching his explosive highlights. God, I know it was short-lived. I had a lot of fun watching Javid Best. I had a lot of hope for him. I really did.
I had high hopes for Calvin Jones too, man. We've talked about him a couple weeks ago with that Liz Frank injury that ended his career. Nowadays would have been, miss a season, come back stronger. He had some real potential, man.
Yeah, Kevin Jones was fun to watch. I believe Dolan's brother has a signed Kevin Jones jersey.
I was with Dolan when they drafted him at Dolan's house watching the draft, and he went bananas, dude. Yeah, he loved that guy.
Who went bananas? His brother?
Dolan. Dolan loved that guy.
Oh, Dolan, yeah. Dude, Dolan still has this obscure wide receiver glove signed by Herman Miller that he just, every time we'd watch the draft, he'd lay it out there
dude.
And casually just put it on and take it off. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, Dolan has some obscure funny stuff. I wish he still had his Tennessee Titans shades that were in his room as a child.
Nice. Let me see. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I got 10. So very quickly here, without a ton of thought going into this, I came up with my top 10. Not just Lions, though, across the league.
Oh God, it just keeps changing as you ask me this question.
No, maybe I just didn't make myself clear, but Walter and Barry are A1 and A2. You can't, in my mind, really delineate much between those guys. A little bit of a different style, obviously, and for how little they both were in stature, they would just truck people. They could juke, spin,
right.
One cut, gone. They were special. They were absolutely the two greatest to ever do this. And then just by
3 and 4,
just by attrition and by just staying power and his desire to be the number one yards leader, you have to mention Emmitt Smith. I don't really like the guy.
No, that's fair.
I think it took away.
He did his job.
Yeah, he did it very effectively behind an awesome offensive line. And then I think it took away from the legacy a little bit that he had to go over to Arizona to stay in the league to get the yards, right? But you can't.
Yeah, that was a little cheesy, but whatever.
Can't deny what he did. And then the bus, dude, Jerome Bettis was just awesome. Loved to watch him. Hated when we had to play against him. He was involved in that crazy Thanksgiving coin flip debacle back in the day against Detroit.
Yeah.
And then a personal favorite of mine, probably too high up this list, John Riggins, man. John Riggins, like he changed the way that teams defended against the run. I put him in this class of like almost alone, but I think I would say Christian Okoye is in that class. Didn't do it. Christian Okoye didn't do it for as long, I don't think, but they were just gigantic, slow, bruising running backs.
John Riggins.
Yeah. From
I love how old
from
you
Washington,
get.
man. He was awesome. I think he wore number 40, 41 or 44. The guy was awesome.
He went into the Hall of Fame in 92.
Yeah, so it was in our lifetime. I can remember, I think, watching John Riggins. Maybe it's a false memory, but I've watched so many highlights, so many YouTube, so many documentaries. The guy was just a tank, right?
I think I would have probably been -9 when he was playing. John Riggins. Listen, how about LaShawn McCoy? That's somebody that popped up into my head.
He's on the list.
As far as watching play, he was... I don't have to bring up the Snow Bowl in Detroit,
right?
Or in Philadelphia, but I loved watching him run. I don't know, him and Alvin Kamara are two guys that I just love watching.
Alvin
run.
Kamara, off the top of my head, did not make my list, but he has to be in the conversation. As you say that, there's I have worse running backs than him on this list, but Marshawn Lynch, of course, is on my list.
100%. 100%.
Maurice Jones-Drew is on my list. Some of these guys with the nicknames, too. You got Shady McCoy. You got the Muscle Hamster. You can't ignore a sweet nickname like the Muscle Hamster, right?